Here we go on a football Sunday, football 24/7. With NFL insider John McMullen, our pregame check-in with John, who's live down at Lincoln Financial Field. The 7-7 Philadelphia Eagles host the New York Giants. Johnny Mack, a good Sunday to you, brother. How are you?
Doing well. Hope everybody had happy holidays. Beautiful day in South Philadelphia. So clear, perfect weather. And the Eagles are set up pretty perfectly. Second time in 6 days, facing a third-string quarterback, and that's a bit of a break. That's a bit of a late Christmas gift for Eagles fans. So we'll see if they can handle their business against Jake Fromm and the New York Giants.
Johnny Mack, let's begin on this Sunday with who's playing for the Philadelphia field. I know, or for the Philadelphia Eagles. I know the inactives are probably out by now. Who's in? Who's out? What can we expect?
Well, I guess the biggest news would be number one, and Nick Sirianni came down yesterday and cleared the COVID protocol, so he's going to be the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a positive. Landon Dickerson was able to get off the COVID list, so he'll be back. The inactives are the normal inactives. Reed Sinnett, Tay Gowan, Kerry Vincent, Marlon Tuipulotu. So the Eagles are healthy and healthier than most if you think about Week 16 in an NFL season with the players available. So basically everybody on the roster is available. Now COVID situations continue to ramp up. You've probably seen a number of positives across the league in different games, but so far the Eagles have held their own on that aspect of it. So better shape than most teams is how I would describe it.
Yeah, and for this time of the year, December 26, 12/26/21, that's a pretty profound statement right there, Johnny Mack. That does not happen too often.
No, and really, if you look at recent seasons, and the Eagles have been so devastated by injuries. So the fact that for the most part, and again, everything is contextual, where, at this point, you sort of forget about Brandon Brooks and Isaac Seumalo and Jack Driscoll and the guys on injured reserve. But for the guys who are available, as I said, and on the roster, everybody's healthy. Jordan Mailata didn't practice this week. Miles Sanders didn't practice this week, but that was more of a game management type situation on a short week to make sure that they were ready for the football game. So the Eagles being cautious there, and everything is set up for them. If you look at it, 7-7, they're tied with Minnesota, who has to play a very difficult Los Angeles Rams team without maybe their best offensive player in Dalvin Cook, who's on the COVID list. You look at the New Orleans Saints, who are 7-7. They have to play the Miami Dolphins, who have won 6 straight games without their starting quarterback, Taysom Hill, who was really the backup quarterback, but Jameis Winston is long gone. And then, it's just for whatever reason, things have kind of gone the Eagles' way late this season, and that is what I said. It starts today. I was talking to Sal Paolantonio from ESPN before the game, and Sal was saying, hey, he's been covering this team for almost 30 years. He can't remember 2 consecutive games where they had third-string quarterbacks. They had to face third-string quarterbacks, and I said to Sal, forget about that. These are third-string quarterbacks that were only with the team for less than a month. Garrett Gilbert on Tuesday was 1 week. Jake Fromm today has had 3 weeks. Man, this is a break. You got to take advantage of it.
No doubt about that. Football 24/7 with John McMullen, presented by Stateside Vodka. We're live on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. If you're watching, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're not already one of our great subscribers here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Johnny Mack, let me get your thoughts on Jalen Hurts. I'm never going to remember the statistics from the earlier game in the season against the Giants, but my memory tells me it was a horrible game for Jalen Hurts. What will be different today?
Yeah, it was probably his worst, not probably, definitely his worst game as the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Even if you really want to go back to last year, I guess you could argue the week 17 when the Eagles were playing those games and went to Nate Sudfeld at halftime. Maybe you could throw that into the mix, but certainly this year, it was by far his worst game. But even that, he had the Eagles in a position to win the game at the end. We all remember the drops from Jalen Reagor. They had a chance to pull out an unlikely victory. And that kind of is one of the positives I've talked about with Jalen Hurts in the past. He's a very unique player. He doesn't let things bother him. A lot of quarterbacks, when they're playing poorly, are going to put their heads down, and it sort of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and they just have a bad game. Jalen's always had this ability to keep coming at you. So you got to play 60 minutes of football, or he's going to gouge you. He's going to gouge you with a big play here, a big play there. It might not be as consistent as you would like, and that's what the Giants kind of found out. They were able to hold on for the victory. You know, I do think if the Eagles ultimately don't make the playoffs, they're going to look to that game at MetLife Stadium and say that's the reason why, because that's a game they should have won. If they don't win this one, I'm going to be honest, you can forget about the playoffs. If you lose to the New York Giants twice, you're done. You're cooked. So they got to handle their business today.
Johnny Mac, two last things before I let you get back to work. Down at the link in anticipation of the kickoff. Mix of receivers from last game. It seems, or it appears, or it probably the numbers will even support it, that Jalen found a lot of targets, went a lot of different ways in the game last week against the Washington football team. Something that we had not seen prior to that game last week, at least from Jalen. We saw it from Minshew, but at least from Jalen.
Yeah, and I've kind of brought up on Birds 365 and a bunch of other platforms that was the most positive part of the game against Washington to me. And the fact that, forget about the numbers, which were really good. Forget about the fact that he looked healthy, which is obviously a positive coming off the high ankle sprain. I think the best part of it all was the fact that he got a lot of players involved. And, you know, since this team became a run-first team midway through the season, the passing game had been essentially Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, and nobody else until Gardner Minshew got in there against the Jets and got some other people involved. And maybe Jalen Hurts learned a little bit from that, stepping back, getting a chance to look at the offense and saying, I need to get more players involved. He was able to do that against Washington. We'll see if that continues against the New York Giants today.
One last thing on the running game, Johnny Mac. Miles Sanders, the backup to Saquon Barkley, when they both were at Penn State, is having a better year than Saquon Barkley. Barkley still seems to be spinning his wheels in the mud. So I don't know how much of a factor he will be. I guess the talent makes him always available to have a big game. But this running game that everybody's talking about is really significant. And it's not only Sanders, it's also Jordan Howard, who I think brings a really different exciting element to the offense when he's on the field.
Yeah, no question about it. And you're right about the Eagles running game. I mean, it's been historic. The first team since the 85 Bears with 175 or more yards and 7 consecutive games. And, if you think about that Bears team, while they're known for their defense first and foremost, offensively, they were Walter Payton. And that's one of the best 2 or 3 running backs who've ever lived. So you kind of understand why they were able to run the ball so effectively. Nothing against Miles Sanders or Jordan Howard or Boston Scott or Kenny Gainwell, but they're not Walter Payton. So that tells you about this running game. It's the offensive line, and it's offensive line driven. And it was interesting because both Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard said earlier this week, these are holes you don't see typically in the NFL. So it starts up front, and that's why you have effectiveness no matter who is running the football for the Philadelphia Eagles.
The head coach of the New York Giants from Philadelphia was criticized this week for blasting inside the practice facility the Eagles fight song. What'd you make of it? Did you comment anywhere about that, John? Did you put? I didn't hear any reference points from you this week on it. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, Joe's an interesting guy, Joe Judge. He wanted to sort of frame it as this is what you're going to hear on Sunday. Get ready for it, and if it works, it's a fine motivational tool. If it doesn't work, people are probably going to go down that road and say, "Oh, Joe is a Philadelphia guy. Joe is always had the Eagles in his sort of viewpoint." But I don't agree with that. He's trying to win a football game. He takes some interesting motivational techniques. He always does that. It hasn't been very successful. He's 10-20. But it's interesting, the story broke from NFL media that he's going to be back. Daniel Jones is going to be back. And that might be another Christmas present, to tell you the truth, for Philadelphia Eagles fans. So they might enjoy that one as well.
And Johnny Mac, one last thought I wanted to get from you on Nick Sirianni now clearing COVID compliance to be able to actually be on the sideline. They weren't going to miss a step anyway, I would assume. But does that last minute news change anything for the team in terms of offensively preparing? The guy, Nick, is physically there. He's not on a monitor.
No, and Nick is very honest, and he says, games are talent driven first. It's about the players first and foremost, and that's why I said, I'm a little surprised that Nick was able to get through the protocols so quickly, and I was expecting Kevin Patullo to be the acting head coach today. So it's only a positive because you have more consistency. But as I said earlier in the week, when you look at this playoff race, and if you were thinking about the Eagles without Nick Sirianni versus the Saints without Taysom Hill or the Vikings without Dalvin Cook, I'd rather be without the coach than the players. Mm-hmm. And that's not an insult to Nick Sirianni. Nick would tell you the same thing. It's more important to have the players. And I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But it is nice to have the continuity and not have to worry about somebody else trying to do what Nick would want to do. Nick's in charge and Nick is handling everything.
Johnny Mac, the next time you're in a conversation with Sal Powell and you have two veterans who have covered this team for a long time, do me a favor, man, click the mic on, will you? I'd love to post that convo on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. That must have been an interesting conversation before leading into this game.
Yeah, well, we got here early, as we're prone to do. So just one of those conversations you have in the press box. But yeah, it's always nice to bounce things off. Other guys have been doing it as long as Sal. So I thought it was interesting, and it was a good way to frame just how lucky the Eagles have gotten this week. And it's sometimes it's better to be lucky than to be good.
On that note, we'll say goodbye for now to John McMullen, checking in from down at Lincoln Financial Field. Johnny Mac, good stuff, brother. We'll see you at halftime here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. And then, of course, when the game concludes, John McMullen going to work, joining Derek Gunn, Mark Farzetta, Devin Caney, live from down at the link. You'll see him on the post-game show right here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel and on 6ABC.com. Great stuff, Johnny Mac. Thank you, brother.
All right, thanks, Trousey.
All right, good stuff from John McMullen joining us from down at Lincoln Financial Field. We thank all of you for tuning in to the JAKIB Media YouTube channel as we get ready for kickoff. Stay active on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Xander's behind the scenes cranking out some audio, and we will see you back here live at halftime as John McMullen will check in. And again, a reminder, the live post-game show coming up. Derek Gunn, Mark Farzetta, Devin Caney. When the game concludes, you'll get it all right here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Go Birds.